Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ella, and for today I have another tag video out of the 12 days of Yule, and this one is reflecting on the past year in my practice. So I have my phone here with my notes, so I might be glancing down every once in a while, but I feel like I've had a lot going on in the past year. So get yourself something to drink or a snack or something like that. I'm sure this is going to be a little bit more rambly, but yeah, I feel like there's a couple of key things that stand out in 2023 for me, with the biggest one definitely being our move. So yeah, let's have a look. Let's get right into it. So I feel like reflecting on my last year, I have definitely seen quite a shift. Again, definitely out of our move. We lived in 3 different countries in this year, which is bound to obviously be reflected in my practice. We started off with living in Latvia still, and then moving pretty abruptly. Like, it kind of came out of the blue, like we didn't expect this move. We moved to Poland for a few months. I think it was like 3 or 4 months total. I think probably more around the 3 months mark. Because we were going to move to Bavaria down here. This is where my mom's side of the family is from. This is, like I in part grew up here, and so always kind of, returned here. And so we had a lot of moving going on, a lot of things to figure out, a lot of like transition type of period. So like obviously that kind of comes with like liminality. It's just you're in that limbo state of moving. And that definitely had an effect on my practice, on the things that I was able to do with my practice, working out of not having, for example, a working space or a working altar or anything like that, being in an area for quite a time where I felt like I couldn't really connect with the local plants and the local spirits and that kind of thing, because it's like, well, I'm moving. I'm staying here only as a guest, like I'm not here for, growing roots. I'm here to just transition. I'm like this kind of like limbo spirit. That's how I definitely felt at times. And then obviously that shift from being that limbo spirit into being here finally and able to grow roots and finally being able to connect in a way that I haven't had the privilege, I suppose, before. Honestly, really ever in my practice. Now I need to kind of also give a little bit of like a foundational back look, I suppose, in that I grew up Wiccan. I was a Wiccan for more than 10 years, and then I switched over a couple of years ago to more the folk magic, folk tradition, and traditional witchcraft. And so that obviously, I never realized as much how I didn't have the roots, because when you're coming out of a traditional ceremonial type of practice such as Wicca, you're not necessarily practicing the same, of course, as with folk magic. I have a video in case you're wondering what is folk magic. I'll link that down below. But yeah, that was definitely a shift for me to finally be able to actually move to a place where I could actually set up everything, and be able to just sort of settle down essentially. On that note, we did get married actually a week ago at this point. So that was really exciting. So I feel like we just had a lot going on, and that also kind of put my practice on the back burner for like a little bit. Like, we had the move, we had our wedding, we had obviously moving here came with a lot of like bureaucracy. Is that how you pronounce it in English? I don't know. We just had a lot going on. So I feel like my practice kind of was on the back burner for like a little while there as well. And I feel like 2024 is where I'm finally really able to dive more deeply into it. But a couple of things that I did really focus on this year was poisonous plants and the nightshade kind of realm of plants, working with plants much more, familiar spirits, dreams, ancestor work. So those are the big ones for me this year for sure. Let's start with the poisonous plant. So that's kind of something I started already back when we were in Riga in Latvia. I started reaching out to this company and they sent me some nightshade plants amongst some other plants, magic garden seeds. I do have a collection with them, which is really, really cool. If you're in the EU, that is available for you. So I have that link below, but this is not sponsored, by the way, just throwing that out there. But yeah, I started really working with these nightshade plants. I grew them from seed. And that is really, really interesting. I never had a plant relationship like that before, by growing it by seed, you know, interacting with them daily, seeing them grow. Unfortunately, seeing some of them die, you know, that is the circle of life, of course. And that was a really, really interesting connection for me, and something that was new in my practice, to really, really have and build that relationship with a very specific spirit and with a very specific plant spirit. I started getting into like flower essences, working with a spirit in different ways that you can work with a plant spirit, and that really helped bring some stability into my practice this year. I feel like that was definitely something that I was really able to focus on, and yeah, bring stability, I suppose. There's a couple of books that I really, really enjoyed reading, which maybe is a good idea for a new topic for a future video, like, you know, plant books, I suppose, or like within the path of witchcraft, of course, that is. So yeah, plants definitely were a big one for me. I started, and I really love spirit flight and liminality and all of the kind of communication with spirits, especially, and that's really the lens that I'm working with these plant spirits. And so I feel like that also became a big focus for me. So spirit flight, and like, you know, out-of-body experiences, things like that. I actually had my first experience this year, which I did speak about in a recent video as well. I might make like a full video dedicated to that if you're curious, but yeah, so that was definitely one big part for me this year. Another one that was a big focus for me is just niching it down. I think overall this year can be summarized by niching down my practice much more, again with specific plant folklore, and with specific yeah, like targeting exactly what I want to work with in this year. And within my practice is like, you know, my specific dreams, ancestors, working with specific land spirits that are specifically here in this region. So niching it down became a big one in this year as well. So when I say that, I mean, for example, you know, I have my ancestors that are from here, that are, you know, from this region. I was able to visit their graves much more than I was previously, and able to just kind of connect with them in much more of that type of way. Now, I feel like that's still something that is relatively new to me, and something that I'm definitely, this is going to be like a, you know, lifelong progress, I assume. This is not something that you're gonna be able to just like learn within a few months and be like, okay, cool, you know, obviously. But building that relationship, you know, being able to focus on that much more is definitely something that I also want to take into the next year. And then I think something that overarchingly also is present here, I feel like, you know, I keep going around the same thing, but spirit work is really like 2023 for me. And that also comes in the form of dream work. I think it's so interesting because I never talk about dream work in any regard, like any posts or any kind of content, but it's such a foundational thing for me in my practice. Like, I kind of feel like that's where I get a lot of my, or most of my spirit communication comes through dream work. That is, you know, it's a state where you're closest to death. You are already in a very liminal space. You're already in a space that doesn't have like physical constrictions or anything like that. Anything can happen in a dream. And so for me, dreams are where it's at when I do spirit work or connecting with ancestors, or even the plants that I've been working with. I get a lot of like information input in my dreams, and so for me, dream journals are super important. It's probably the most consistent thing I do out of all of my practice, is dream recording and like looking at my dreams. and also divining through dreams. I find that topic massively interesting, which also goes into like, you know, like out-of-body experiences, spirit flight and things like that. If you look at a lot of the old testimonies of, you know, during the witch trials when these things were recorded predominantly, which is, you know, where we got a lot of that spirit flight lore from. A lot of folk would say that, you know, during their dream states, they would be flying out of their body, and that's when they kind of were active, let's say, in spirit. And so for me, that is also something that this year has taken precedence. I've always kind of kept a dream journal loosely. I tend to keep them on my phone, on the notes app, because I just love that you're able to do like voice to text, like especially right in the morning when you, or in the middle of the night when you wake up and you have a dream and you know, you're too sleepy to just type. So you're able to do a voice to text. I love that. I love that feature, and I think that's the easiest one for me. So I don't actually keep like a written dream journal. It's just on my phone, but I like that because it automatically keeps, you know, the dates and everything. So that's how I dream journal, just, you know, putting that out there. But yeah, so I feel like that is really, you know, I could probably go much more in depth with this, but I feel like at that point I'd just be repeating myself. But yeah, that's really kind of where this year has been at for me. I'm really, really excited and looking forward to the next year, especially because I feel like this year really was like setting the foundation for the next coming years, with us moving here, with us settling down, with me being able to grow these roots, and, you know, planting these seeds. I feel like I'm talking in very like, you know, metaphorical terminology here, but it's definitely true for me. And I think that it's beautiful for me to be able to see how me focusing on plants especially reflects so much with my actual day-to-day life, with us moving and me being able to like plant those seeds for the future and like growing roots, you know. But yeah, so I think that is already it, to be honest, for this video. I think my biggest takeaway or a tip, for example, for you all watching is I like this reflective kind of video. So, you know, if I were you, and even if you're not like a creator or anything like that, journal that. I feel like that's a beautiful thing to journal about and sit down and just have a look at how your year went. Just like completely objectively, no judgment, not being like, oh, I didn't achieve this or that, because I think we always have that in our mind where, you know, especially with like New Year's resolutions, I don't really tend to do those anymore. But just objectively being like, okay, so what did happen in this year, the good, the maybe like lows and things like that, you know, just write them down. I feel like that's a really, really neat idea. So thank you for Ivy for doing this tag. I love this. I love this video idea. I'm definitely going to continue doing this going forward. But yeah, I hope that that was interesting for you to watch. If you have any questions or if you want to let me know about your year as well, write them down in the comments below. I always love reading them. I sometimes have a hard time like getting behind replying to them, but I definitely read every single comment. So yeah, thank you everyone. Also, just in general, thank you for being here with me for this year, with this journey, with all of the moving, with all of the like craziness going on, especially, you know, right now in the world. So thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful year ahead, a wonderful, how do you call it, Sylvester? New Year's, and I hope you had a wonderful holiday, solstice season. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. May you walk with your gods. Bye!